about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So breaking news this morning was an Air Canada Express regional jet was arriving to New York LaGuardia's airport from Montreal, operated by Jazz Aviation, ends up getting into a collision with a fire truck. And the fire truck was on the runway because it was responding to an odor on a United Airlines plane. The air traffic controller, I believe, in charge of that landing. We have some audio to share with you. Tries to stop the collision after I believe giving permission for the fire truck to proceed. And sadly, 2 people have died, multiple people injured. We'll go ahead and play some of that air traffic control audio now.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower.
Truck 1 and Company.
Truck 1 and Company, LaGuardia Tower, requesting to cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, cross 4 at Delta.
Truck 1 and Company, crossing 4 at Delta.
Frontier 4195, just stop there, please. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Delta 2603, go around, runway heading 2000. Jet 646. Jet 646, I see you collide with a vehicle here. Just hold position. I know you can't move. The vehicles are responding to you now.
So sadly, you hear the air traffic controller catch a mistake, trying to now convert other flights. And luckily, he averted more disaster by getting other flights to stop. But this was a tragedy that didn't have to happen. The pilot and co-pilot were both killed. I believe 41 other passengers and crew were 39 passengers and crew, and then 2 aircraft rescue and firefighting officers had to be hospitalized. The majority of them have been released, but some have sadly suffered serious injuries. The aircraft was carrying 72 passengers and 4 crew members, according to Jazz Aviation. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, I believe, is on site helping investigate what happened. And the FAA has now issued a ground stop for all planes at the airport. They do believe LaGuardia will reopen at about 2 p.m. later today, local time. But unfortunately, this is a disaster that just shouldn't have happened, for a plane to crash into a fire truck at that speed. What happened? How did it happen? You know, we're hearing from passengers. They are absolutely praising the fast action of the pilot. And they understand that the pilot gave his life, knew what was happening, and basically both he and the co-pilot gave their lives to protect the passengers. When they noticed that there was something on the tarmac, you know, they tried to brake. They broke as much as they could. The passengers said that there was, you know, people were flying all over the place, and it was chaos, and they were being thrown across. I don't know if people took off their seatbelts as soon as the plane was on the run. I don't know. Was the jolt large enough where people ripped through their seatbelts? But unfortunately, many people were injured by this. And if it wasn't for the quick action of the pilot and the co-pilot, sadly, more people could have been hurt. The air traffic controller, you know, people are saying, well, what happened? You know, was he tired? Was he, you know, it's hard to tell. You know, we're only listening to snippets of it. He sounded alert. He sounded awake. And from what we understand, he did, you know, admit that, you know, it was his fault. And not a my bad. I mean, he's obviously very, very sorry. But, you know, people are looking at this as when you have something so avoidable, you know, as what Are there ways emergency vehicles can get to planes without crossing runways? Probably not. I mean, to get to the speed they have to get to, because I heard people kind of chatter about that. How do we get emergency vehicles? Why isn't there a road so they don't have to? Unfortunately, with an airport, I mean, the runways are, especially if you're trying to get to another plane that had to stop. Even if there is an auxiliary road, that still could be in the path. So that isn't as practical as we wish it could be. But the plane was coming in, I guess, late at night. I think it was 11:30 p.m., 11:47 p.m. This was 11:47 p.m. Is it that the air traffic controller was at the end of the shift? Was he tired? How did they not notice? And, when you listen, I listen to these audios every time, God forbid, there's a crash. You listen to the audio, and they seem pretty calm. A450, use runway D2. They're very calming, and they're supposed to be calming, right? You're not supposed to jar. There's, it's supposed to be very professional, but and then when you start to hear the panic, that makes you nervous, obviously, but you just kind of wonder what was preceding that you don't catch on audio. And I understand they're hitting the mic and they're hitting the comms button so they could communicate. But was it somebody behind them distracting them? Was it they don't have co-workers next to them, so it's them handling the whole airport themselves? Are we going to get the full details of this? Is anybody going to admit that they were understaffed if they were understaffed? And will the air traffic controller have to take the fall for this, even though it was his fault? Are we not going to hear any of the backstory? And we need to know that because air traffic controller issues, God bless them, but the last few years they've not been doing so well because they've been understaffed, overworked, exhausted, underpaid. We've had many people retire. So I hope this doesn't happen again. But we'll, as soon as we do get more information on that, we'll let you know. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing that I've always found ridiculous and frustrating is when the government shuts down. It goes on for weeks, months, and then we start to, in the beginning, go, okay, well, we don't feel it. There's all these little safety nets, so we're good. So, yeah, go ahead and give the Republicans a hard time, or Republicans, go give the Democrats a hard time. Do what you got to do. We're good. And then after a few weeks, we're like, okay, it's not so good. And then you have to go to the airport, or you need your SNAP benefits, or you need something. And then you start to feel it. And when you try to reach out to your congressman or senator, as we saw earlier with the first shutdown with Congress this year, or this Congress, then they're already too deep in. I mean, in Nevada, with the first shutdown, Catherine Cortez Masto did her job. She's like, look, this is going to screw up SNAP benefits. No, let's just fund the government. Jackie Rosen took a while. And then when people were getting ticked, saying, come on, you could sign this thing and I could get my benefits. Are you kidding me? Then Jackie Rosen worked with Cortez Masto and the others, and they got it through. So here we are again with this government shutdown with funding not being given to DHS, because apparently the Democrats and Republicans are trying to agree on funding of ICE. The Democrats want to use this opportunity to defund ICE, even though I think we just had another college student from Loyola University in Chicago murdered by an illegal immigrant. And so we're in the midst of everything going on with Iranian sleeper cells and all that, and cartel members who have gotten through, wolves in sheep's clothing. And so, we need ICE, any country has an immigration enforcement, because we want to preserve our legal immigration. But the Democrats find this as an opportunity to be able to make wins before the midterms on limitations to ICE. Meanwhile, the American public might be okay until September as it pertains to SNAP benefits and things like that. But in terms of the TSA is getting screwed again. So for anybody who had a flight or who has an upcoming flight, there's a good chance they're going to miss a flight. There's not enough TSA agents. TSA agents are calling out. I don't blame them. I don't think any TSA agent, if you're not getting paid, no, don't go to work. I mean, if the government is shut down and you're not getting paid, God bless you for trying to, work without a paycheck, but you really don't have to. And the funny thing is this shutdown might end a lot quicker. If the TSA agents say, all right, I guess we're not getting funded, so call us when the funding starts and we'll show up to work, the airports close. How many days do you think the Democratic senators or congresspeople are going to sit then on this funding bill if the airports are closed? I think they would, within an hour, sign the sucker to continue the funding. And we're not trying to add anything new, from what I understand, between the Democrats and the Republicans in terms of the funding. It's we want to limit and now make some changes to that. Those changes can always be done and can always be recommended and bills passed throughout the year. But when there's emergency funding that needs to be done, that's apparently, for some politicians, an opportunity for them to try and negotiate. And I got to tell you, the Democrats are not looking good with this. Right? This is not looking good, because if the average person now is waiting in line because there's only one TSA agent that came to work, and again, God bless them. But honestly, if you're a TSA agent and you don't want to go to work unpaid, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. And so, as far as I'm concerned, if the government is shut down, shut it down. Just And then maybe Congress understands, okay, this isn't an opportunity to do politics. See, the problem is, and I've said this before, the number one goal of a politician isn't to be there for America. It's to get reelected or to help their party. That's not supposed to be the number one goal. So if your constituents are saying, come on, man, just, the airports are ridiculous. This is getting dangerous. Sign the flipping, continuation of the funding. That's what their job is supposed to be. But because we have all these, we have the honor system, and we know some TSA agents will work for free and they'll get back pay. And, they're being really nice about it. And maybe they don't have to be so nice, guys. You don't have to be so nice. Now, Elon Musk has offered to pay the TSA agents. Very nice of him. Very, very cool to do that. But I think what would be more effective is just close the airport. Now, I know people are like, how could you do that? How could you? Well, already people are missing their flights. I'm hearing from people and listeners all the time. They go, I missed my flight. I have to wait another day. Well, if they're already missing their flights, and then I don't think they're going to feel the airport being closed. There's already delays. Nobody can get through the TSA line quick enough because there's not enough agents. And how safe is that for somebody who's not getting paid and overworked and understaffed to be in charge? You know that there's somebody that's going to want to take advantage. So my recommendation would be just fine. If there's not enough TSA agents, there's no funding for the TSA agents. Don't fund, close the airports. And you'll see those Congress people get their asses back to Congress to sign the damn bill. Now, Trump has a backup plan. He will bring ICE agents into the airports to help. Now, again, it's all hands on deck, and I get that. And ICE agents could give TSA a hand. Now you're hearing from other sides going, oh, that's horrible because they're just going to shoot random people and all. And so now everybody's trying to make a bigger deal of this. Okay, if you don't want ICE agents, right, because you feel they are just going to be randomly hurting people, if that's how you really feel, one, you don't really understand the situation, but that's how you feel, then tell your congressperson to sign the flipping bill. Sign the flipping bill. I mean, it's funding. It's ridiculous. But how we're doing shutdowns is, okay, while Congress goes back and forth and they use these for sound bites and they use these to get themselves, reelected, and we'll still be able to function. The IRS will still function. Will still, and to me, you also wonder if the argument should be, should a lot of these things be at the whim of Congress? Should government be funding the TSA, or should TSA be privatized? Now, I haven't really researched it, so I don't know if I have an opinion. But what some people are kind of suggesting is if Congress, like right now, it's the Democratic Congress holding everybody hostage with this. If Congress is having us by the cojones and then take the power out of Congress. See, that's what I'm like, a big anti-government. And I don't want to say I'm anti-government, but less government. The more government's involved, the more you could get screwed. And so maybe we need TSA not in government control. Where, I mean, the airports are already charging an arm and a leg. I mean, a bottle of water, this is $5 at McCarran, at Harry Reid Airport. So, I mean, they're already charging a lot. What if security is on the airports? What if security is, and I understand that's kind of a big deal because it is part of the national security, and I understand why it's under that. But if we're not going to manage the shutdowns correctly, and we're going to be in a position where the government shuts down, we should never be in this position. The funding should always be there. What's happening now is ridiculous, and I think other countries are looking at us and laughing. This process is dumb. Maybe we need to have a backup plan. So, hospitals do this with nurses and staff. If staff strike, what do you do with the patients? Well, they move to non-union staffing solutions. It's not ideal because the staffed nurses know the patients, know the hospital, do the best job there. But maybe we need a backup plan where, guys, we're not going to be dealing with this BS. But honestly, if the airport's closed for a day or two, I think Congress will get their acts together. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Okay. I got to tell you, man, these controversies, they just don't go away. So, to vax or not vax? That is the question. I vaccinated my kids. I was vaccinated as a kid. Luckily, I didn't have to have as many, but things have changed, and we've been able to fight and address a lot of infectious disease. Polio killed one of my relatives in the olden days, so very, very glad. Actually, tetanus did. Tetanus killed one of my relatives, and I think we also had a polio death, so I'm very, very grateful that this day and age we have these vaccines. But over the years, I had attracted many patients whose kids were refused care from other doctors' offices. And I got this reputation of being not anti-vax, because I'm pro-vaccine, but friendly to those who want alternative options. Now, I didn't earn that, because all I did, I still recommended vaccinations. But what happened is when there was a sick kid, I didn't turn them away. And so if a child had a fever, whether they were vaccinated or not, that kid needs care. It's not the kid's choice that they weren't vaccinated. It was the parent's choice. That kid needs care. And I was really shocked that there were doctors that would refuse patients. Now, did they really refuse, or was that the patient's interpretation? At the beginning, I'm like, they're not going to refuse you. You got a baby. They're going to want the baby evaluated. They're going to want to. And then I was actually hearing from some of these doctors going, I don't want the kid in my office. If that kid's in my office, they could spread polio to other kids. And I go, you mean your other unvaccinated patients? Are you seeing unvaccinated patients or not? They're like, yeah, we are, but there are some that have to be unvaccinated because they can't tolerate the vaccine or they have a side effect. So I don't want purposefully unvaccinated kids in the office because they could hurt the unpurposefully vaccinated kids. I'm like, oh, so you are turning kids down. Okay, I'm not judging, but okay, we need then a population of doctors who will still take care of patients despite paternal choices. If you're anti-gun and the kid accidentally blows his hand off by the gun, are you not going to take care of that child because you don't? I mean, you're supposed to kind of put your politics and issues aside. If your kid is eating a lot of junk food, if the mom is using SNAP benefits for junk food and feeding that kid junk food, you're not going to refuse the family. You're going to have to take care of that kid anyway. That, and hopefully educate the mom on use your SNAP benefits for healthy food. So, the concept of my unvaccinated child is not going to be allowed in the doctor's office is a sentiment that's been growing. Is it 100% true all the time? I don't think so, because I don't think any doctor would really admit, with the exception of a few, saying, I don't want you in here. Remember there was that doctor during COVID that in the South? It was a white doctor who had signs up, if you're unvaccinated for COVID, I don't want you in my office. Now, I was immediately wondering, where did this guy graduate medical school? Because even if you're vaccinated for COVID, you could still spread COVID. You could still get COVID. So what was going on? Well, then people were saying that a large black community in that area wasn't getting vaccinated because they didn't trust that the studies represented them, the Tuskegee experiments, things like that. And so obviously there was a lot of, and I'm licensed in Alabama, Mississippi. So I heard from a lot of patients that had hesitancy on the COVID vaccine. So basically, essentially what this doctor was doing is he was saying no to patients who chose not to, and the majority of those patients were black. Now, I don't know if he took down the sign. I don't know if he realized what he was doing, but it wasn't a good look. And it didn't make sense, because we all know if we graduated medical school and if we passed our boards, we know that even if you got a vaccine, you could still get an illness and you could still carry the illness and spread the illness. So to say if you're unvaccinated, you're out of here, that's looks like there's a little bit more of a secondary reason. So one issue now I'm seeing, because I work for a telemedicine company, a couple telemedicine companies, is I'm seeing patients, these kids, where they really need to see a doctor, or a medical provider. They need to be evaluated. They need to be sewn up. They have a cut. They have a severe burn. And when I ask the parents, I go, are you taking them into the doctor? They're like, I don't want to take them into the doctor. I go, are your kids vaccinated? No, they're not. And so when you look a little deeper and you're like, okay, so your child's unvaccinated by your choice, but your child has a burn. Any burns to the hand, feet, face, genitalia, or a large area of the burn needs burn care. But your child has a burn. And when you look a little deeper, these parents they're going to give us crap about the vaccines. Just tell me what to do at home. I go, whoa. Okay, so not only are you not vaccinating your child, and I understand there's a lot of parent hesitancy, but now you're not taking that child in for medical care also, because you're concerned that the doctors are either going to recommend vaccines or bias against you. So there's this growing idea that if you have an unvaccinated child, the medical community doesn't want you, and that you shouldn't take your kid in. And I'm looking at these kids, and these kids didn't decide whether they were vaccinated or not. These kids need medical help. And so if you're a doctor, that's like, look, these parents are crazy if they're not vaccinating their child. One is, that's not what we were taught in medical school. Yeah, we weren't taught that. Yeah, I mean, the parents are, you ask the parents why they're hesitant. Many parents actually are pro-vaccine. They just might not want 6 done at one shot. They'll talk to them. You're always supposed to talk to them, right? If somebody says, oh, I'm a smoker, do you say, get the hell out of my office? No, you try to work with them. You try to figure out. But understand also that if you're giving off this sense of, well, I don't want you, these parents aren't taking these kids in. In fact, there's a study that a lot of parents aren't getting the vitamin K shot for their infant in the hospitals. So we give vitamin K so the child doesn't bleed out, but because they went through a lot of trauma to go through the vaginal canal. I'm not going to show you pictures, but I got my kids. God, it was like them, navigating a minefield, right? when I gave birth. But unfortunately, they could sustain some significant bleeding. God forbid there's a vitamin K deficiency, they could hemorrhage. So we give vitamin K right at the outset. Well, now you have a lot of parents going, no, don't be giving them that. Don't inject anything into my baby. And so there's this growing distrust of everything. And doctors can regain the trust very easily by one, listening to patients, two, not biasing. And I can't tell you how many patients who came to me who were unvaccinated eventually vaccinated their kids. And it's not that I, seduced them or manipulated them or whatever. I basically broke down going, what are you concerned about? And they're like, it's a lot of shots. It's 6, 7 shots. And I go, well, what if we work with the health department and you get the shots in a series, in a different, would you be more comfortable where you try one shot, see how that goes? Which disease are you really, really worried about that your kid's going to get? I don't want my kid getting pneumonia. Okay, let's start with that. And once you see how that goes, you might be comfortable you can work with them. But I hear there's a lot of doctors going, I just don't have the time. I don't have the patience. I mean, we're seeing this with these GLP-1s. A lot of patients are saying their doctor won't write the medication. Why? Because they don't believe in it. It's not that they don't believe in it. It's a pain in the ass to try to get the prior authorization to watch them for side effects and then to be there when the weight rebounds. So if you think your doctor is being lazy or biased, you don't want to go there. But if you're not taking your child in because you don't want to get any heat for the unvaccinated, your child is going to really suffer because that child needs medical care. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
The Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Okay, so we talk a lot about in-laws and relationships and stuff like that because a lot of people have, I know there's a lot going on with Iran and there's a lot of news going on, but a lot of people have their own drama going on in their households. I'm very, very lucky. I am so blessed that my son is engaged to the most amazing woman, so I'm very, very lucky. However, I had issues, with my in-laws. I love them, but I'm actually writing a book on how to be a good mother-in-law, father-in-law. I hope. I even told my future daughter-in-law, that I'm writing this book on it, and I go, please, for the love of God, correct me. If I'm doing anything that's annoying or to tick you off, and she is really, really good with that. I think what's going to annoy her is I'm going to keep asking, going, okay, is that okay? Is that okay? Am I annoying you? Is everything okay? Because I understand how delicate the relationship is. Now, why? Well, I had another listener who said that they were really, really close with their child, but the child's boyfriend doesn't like them. And as a result, they're not seeing their child much anymore. And then I had a friend of mine who felt that the person that the child was dating was talking crap about them and turning their child against them, going, no, your parents shouldn't be doing that. Your parents shouldn't be doing that. And then all of a sudden, the kid's like, no, I don't want to come over. I don't want to do this. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And one issue that in-laws have, both daughter and son-in-law versus the mother and the father-in-law, is your frame of references are completely different. Okay. So, for me, I always knew that having boys, all right, they're going to be there for their wife and their wife's going to be in charge. Okay. I was never in the role that mama's in charge. Why? Because I worked all the time. I didn't get to see them growing up much. So I felt like, even though I'm their mom, I don't have a leg to stand on because basically dad did a lot of the raising, which is why the kids turned out so well. But I was working. I was at my office 5, 6 a.m., didn't come home until 10 at night. When I worked at the urgent care, didn't see the baby. I was working so much that as far as I'm concerned, whoever they marry is going to be, the big mama of the house. So I've never really had that thinking. But you have other people where, we're the matriarchs, we're the patriarchs. And then they have plans. They know what they wanted for their babies. They know what they wanted when their kids were in grade school, middle school, high school. And then they have a plan of what their life is going to be like and their kids are going to be like post. All of a sudden, there's a whole nother entity. All right? There's a man coming into the family or another woman coming into the family. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to work with them. We're going to have to mold them. We're going to have to. And no, that doesn't work. But that's the start of one of the roots. On the other end, you have the young man or the young woman who has been going through their life, getting through their childhood, whatever, moving out of the house. And now they are having plans for how their life wants to be and what they want their life to be. They meet somebody and now they're trying to figure out how to navigate. How do I and my new partner progress and grow where we're both getting what we want? Nowhere in that planning of that young adult is, whoa, what does my father-in-law want or my mother-in-law wants? So one of the big issues that happens with the in-law issue is this deer in headlights look of, wait, you're involved now? Wait, you have wants? Oh, hell no. And I loved my in-laws. They were great people. But my mother-in-law didn't. I'm trying to get to medical school. I'm trying to get through residency and all that. And how could she understand that my goals and what I was thinking about was different? She was thinking I was joining her family. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be matching. I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be, I got to get into a residency. I got to figure out how to pay these loans. I got to figure out when to start having kids. And so my goals are different. And I really regret not having the relationship with my mother-in-law that I think I could have had. She was a wonderful lady. But, I at the time, I was like, just let me do what I got to do. I love you and everything, but we didn't get along. And we could have, if I had, what they say, that youth is wasted on the young. if I had the experience and understanding of what she was maybe thinking and going through. She always had a plan for her sons. And then here comes me, and I'm like, okay, I got boards. I got to get into a residency. I'm going to apply to California residencies, but what if I get into Nevada? I got this. Not to mention, I had, on top of that, my family. And I have a mother who had her own plans and ideas. And so when you have somebody young like that, if that's how they're entering your family, it's going to be like this. Now, then the thought comes, well, okay, now they don't like us. Now they're turning my child against me. Now they're this. Now they're no. You know, if you have a good relationship with your daughter or your son, okay, nobody is going to turn them against you. Okay, that baby's love, that connection will not. Now, somebody might enlighten them as, yeah, that's kind of abusive. That's this, that's this. I mean, if you're a bad parent, then yes, somebody might be enlightened to your bad parenting. But in terms of if you are a good parent, nobody should be able to turn your child against you. Now, if you're interpreting that because you're like, well, I want them coming over every Christmas, or I want them coming over every Easter, or I want them and they're not, then that's on you. Yeah. So what do you do? How do you fix this? Right? Because you got grandkids coming, and you will not see those grandkids if you have pushed away the new son or the new daughter that's coming into the which, by the way, you got to get rid of the idea of they're coming into your family, you know, or your child is going into their family. That whoever's getting married is their own nucleus. And then because I noticed that it's a big issue with in-laws going, okay, well, we're the matriarchs, we're the patriarchs. You're coming, you're being a part of us, like a Kennedy or something like that. No. And I told my future daughter-in-law early on, I go, by the way, don't let anybody make you feel like you have to be now absorbed in our family, or now your family is you and Stone. All right. And then we're auxiliary. You know, yes, you are part of our family. We love you. You're a daughter, whatever. But don't ever let anybody make you think that you guys aren't now the main family, because now you are the focus. And she really appreciated that. But that's something that new young people want to feel. They want, so, you know, if let's say now the relationship is starting to deteriorate, okay, and the relationship is starting to deteriorate where you're like, okay, my son or my daughter is dating somebody who doesn't like me. Okay, what do? Well, one of the biggest mistakes you could do is do an intervention and try to have that child, right, dump the other person. Because if your child really loves that person's going to find out about that intervention, and they're going to really be like, are you flipping kidding me? So what I would do, though, is have conversations and say, look, I want us to start afresh. All right. I understand that you guys have your own autonomy. All right. I want to be a part of your lives, but let's work this out. And we'll talk more about this because I know the segment's up. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.